Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new reading vlog. So in this week's reading vlog I'm going to be revisiting some of my previous book hauls to read books that I've actually hauled. If you've been watching my channel, you'll know that I haul quite a lot of books each month, and I'm not always the best at reading the books that I actually haul. Sometimes they'll sit on my shelf for ages without actually being read, so I thought by doing this reading vlog I can read some of the books that I have hauled. So for this particular reading vlog we're going to be focusing on my January book haul. So looking back at that video, I hauled 27 books. And out of those 27 books, I've read one. So I've got 26 books that I have not yet read. And I've kind of created those into a list so I can kind of randomize what I'm going to be reading, because I did think about just kind of selecting books, but I thought let's make it a bit more interesting, let's actually randomize what we're going to be reading. So some of those books on that list are sequels, and so I have taken those out of consideration. I've obviously taken the one that I've read out of consideration. There is one book on here that is part of a series, but I think it's a series that I can get away with not reading in order, so I have kept that one on here, but the other ones that are kind of series I am interested in reading in order, like there was the Adeline Grace books, they obviously I feel like you can't read those out of order, so I have taken book 2 off there. So in total, once I've taken out all of the sequels and the one that I've read, I'm left with 22 books. So I will leave the link down below to my January haul, so if you want to see all of the books that I hauled, you can watch that video, because I'm not going to be recapping it in this video. I'm just going to randomize what books I'm going to read. So to do this I have created a list of 1 to 22, and I'm just going to use a random number generator to select the book that I'm going to read. So let's have a look. So I'm going to randomize the numbers, and the number I've got is 15. So if I look at the list of books that I've got, 15 relates to Lady of Skye by Patricia Cabot. So I'm just going to go and find that book. So here we have Lady of Skye by Patricia Cabot. Patricia Cabot is a pen name for Meg Cabot, who wrote the Princess Diaries series, the Mediator series, which were some of my favourite series when I was growing up. So I'm interested to check out this pen name that she has. Under the Patricia Cabot pen name, she has written historical romances. So I'm just going to read the blurb for this one. I don't always read blurbs before going into it, but I think for the purpose of this vlog I will read the blurb, and then I will obviously make a start on it and update you with my initial thoughts. So this says, Dr. Riley Stanton, 8th Marquess of Stillworth, must mend his injured pride by proving himself a hero and not a drunken wastrel, as his former fiancée claimed. Against all sane advice, the Londoner takes a medical post in a tiny fishing village on the remote Isle of Skye, and is convinced that he can cope with the primitive conditions, horrendous Highland weather and rampant illness. But Miss Brina Donegal is another matter entirely. Try as he might, Riley cannot ignore the toweringly tall lady with flaming chestnut locks and an equally fiery will. She has filled her father's former role as the local physician, and is more than annoyed to find the urban Dr. Stanton taking over her work and her father's cottage. By fair means or foul, she will give the usurper his comeuppance, but what begins as a sparking tug of war between two proud hearts soon flames to a passionate fire. So definitely interested to check this one out. I haven't read any historical romances for a while, and I've not read anything by Patricia Cabot. I've obviously read the Meg Cabot books, but that was quite a while ago, so looking forward to diving into this one, and I will read maybe about 50% of this and then update you with my initial thoughts, unless I have anything to say before the 50% mark. But we're looking at a total of 448 pages in here, so I will update you once I have started this. As I say, it will probably be around the 50% mark, and we'll see how we end up enjoying this one. So I'm about 50% of the way through Lady of Skye by Patricia Cabot, and I feel like this is a very average book. I'm not hating it, but I'm also not loving it either. I feel like although I've read over 200 pages, I'm almost like exactly halfway through 226 pages I've read, and not a lot has happened, I'll be honest. So in this one we are following Riley Stanton, Dr. Riley Stanton, who is a doctor who has come all the way from London to the Isle of Skye for his own reasons. I'm not going to go too much into his reasons because I don't want to spoil too much, but he's basically come to the Isle of Skye to escape some things from London, and he is very much treated as an outsider when he first arrives. So the Isle of Skye is obviously a very remote island, so everyone is, they all kind of know each other. Some of the families have been there for generations, and so they very much view him as an outsider and they treat him as such, and so they don't necessarily want to go to him with their medical needs because he's obviously someone new. And the person that's invited him or hired him to come to the Isle of Skye is I think he's the Earl or Lord. I'm just trying to remember what his name is. Glenn Ridding or something like that. What was his name? As I say, I'm always really terrible with names, even though I am currently reading this. Glendenning, that's his name. He's the one that has brought him into town. And we also have this young lady called Brianna Donegal, I think is the name. Brianna Donegal. And she is been living on the island. Her family is from the island, and her family have gone abroad on their travels, and Brianna is supposed to be in London with her uncle, but she didn't like London society, so has come back to the Isle of Skye and has been living on the island. And she is very much an independent woman. She's also been treating the people of the island before obviously Dr. Stanton gets there, and she is the one that people trust. And she has this kind of, she gets up to some mysterious things. She's often out at night with a notebook, seemingly doing things that no one really knows about. And Lord or Earl or whatever he is, Glendenning, wants to marry her, and he kind of enlists Dr. Stanton because he thinks that Brianna is not all there. So he thinks that if he enlists Dr. Stanton to kind of help guide Brianna to basically accepting a marriage from Glendenning. I assume this is going to be a romance between Dr. Stanton and Brianna, but we're halfway through and we have not seen any romance yet. So yeah, this is definitely a slow burn book. If there is a romance, it's definitely going to be a slow burn one. I haven't really felt much chemistry between these two characters, so I'm not sure whether I am interested in seeing a romance between them. They have worked together on a patient. That's kind of the most recent thing that I've read. A young boy gets kind of trampled by a horse, and Dr. Stanton has to perform like some quite invasive surgery because the young boy's basically got like a bleed on the brain. So Dr. Stanton performs this kind of quite radical surgery for that time period, and Brianna kind of assists him with that, and I assume that's going to help bring them closer. But as I say, I don't really feel a lot of chemistry between these characters. I see them like they work together fine as colleagues, but romance, I don't really see that. So I'm definitely interested to see where the second half goes. I am feeling that this is probably going to be a 3-star read. Like, I don't feel like it's anything special. So I'm not 100% sure if I will be keeping this once I've finished it, but I will obviously complete it. I'm not hating it enough to want to DNF it, but I'm also not loving it. I will say the writing is quite easy to follow. I don't know when this was published actually. I know it's an older one, but 2001 it came out in, so it's definitely like easy to follow. I feel like even though not a lot has happened, I am getting through it quite quickly. So it's only taken me maybe like a day and a bit to get to this point. So whilst I don't want to say it's fast paced because nothing's really happened, but it's also going by quite quickly. But as I say, I've read quite a lot, but nothing's really happened. So they're my initial thoughts. I will update you once I have got to the end, and we'll obviously be picking my next book in the next clip, but they are my initial thoughts on this one. So I have finished reading Lady of Skye by Patricia Cabot, and I didn't love this book. I think I'm going to give it a 2.5 rounded up to a 3, but yeah, I didn't necessarily love this one. So in my last update I'd said that I hadn't really felt any real romantic connection between our two main characters, and immediately after I updated you in that last clip, the next chapter was the characters kissing, and that kind of came out of nowhere for me. Up until that point I really hadn't seen much chemistry between the characters, and even when they were kissing I was like, I feel like there wasn't much chemistry between them. It almost felt like he was there and she was there and there wasn't really anyone else, so they ended up getting together. That's how it felt. Like, the romance in here was really not great. I didn't like that aspect of it. What I did like is the initial first portion of the book when the doctor had arrived to the island. Riley Stanton had arrived to the island and he was meeting the islanders, and he was kind of settling into island life. I liked that aspect, but the actual romance of this one I didn't love. We do find out what Brianna had been investigating on her kind of nightly journeys out. When we see her going around with her notebook, she was actually investigating cholera and how she was trying to basically figure out how people were getting sick with cholera. And there is a portion at the end of this book where we spend a lot of time talking about cholera because there is a cholera outbreak, and they obviously discover it is because of the water, and that takes up like quite a few chapters towards the end of the book. And yeah, as I say, romance in here wasn't great. There is almost kind of a love triangle because there's Lord Glendenning who wants to be with Brianna, and obviously he is not happy when he finds out that Dr. Stanton has gone after her, but that is almost very quickly forgotten, so that kind of plot line went nowhere. So overall, yeah, I just didn't love this one. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that some of her other books under this pen name are better, because I do own some of those as well. But I am going to probably donate this one because I don't think I need to keep this one on my shelf. So I'm going to now pick the next book that I'm going to read. So I'm just going to generate a new number, and I have got number 2. So number 2 on my list is called Love in the Time of Scandal by Caroline Linden, which is another historical romance. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if I'm in the mood for another historical romance, but that's what we've got. So I will go and grab that book and I will read the synopsis for that one. So here we have Love in the Time of Scandal by Caroline Linden, and I'm just going to read the synopsis for this one. So it says, Penelope Weston does not like Benedict Lennox, Lord Atherton. He may be the suave and charming heir to an earl, as well as the most handsome man on earth, but she can't forget how he abandoned a friend in need, nor how he once courted her sister Abigail. He's the last man she would ever marry, if only she didn't feel so attracted to the arrogant scoundrel. Once upon a time, Benedict thought he and Penelope got along rather well. Though he needs a wealthy bride to escape his cruel father's control, spirited Penelope just doesn't suit his plans for a model marriage. Until a good deed goes awry and scandalous rumours link his name to Penelope's. She might not be the quiet, sensible wife he thought he wanted, but she is beautiful, beguiling, and far more passionate than he ever imagined. Can a marriage begun in scandal become a love match? So I'm interested to check this one out. As I say, reading back-to-back historical romance isn't always my favourite thing to do. Sometimes I do like to break it up, but obviously for this reading vlog I'm reading books that I purchased in January, and I did pick up quite a lot of historical romances in January. I was participating in the was it called the Blue Stocking Meets Rake readathon, so I was reading a lot of historical romances, and because I was reading a lot of historical romances I was really in like a historical romance mood, but I feel like with historical romance it's very easy to burn myself out on those if I read too many in at one go. So I'm going to read this next and I will update you once I've got to 50% of the way through. So I have now finished Love in the Time of Scandal by Caroline Linden, and I ended up really enjoying this one. I gave this one 4 stars, which was a bit of a relief because I have read a few historical romances back to back, and the ones that I've read previously have not been the best. Like I've had, obviously I read The Lady of Skye for this video, which I gave 2.5 stars to, and I read another one in between, and that one I only gave 3 stars to, so I was really relieved that I did end up enjoying this one. So this one is kind of told in 2 parts, I would say. So we follow Benedict and Penelope, and at the start of the book Benedict is kind of pursuing another lady. He's not in love with her, but he is kind of pursuing her as an option for his wife because she's relatively wealthy, and Penelope and him end up in a compromising situation. Penelope's friend Olivia ends up in a room with I think his name was Lord Clary or Clary or something like that, and he is not a very nice guy, and Penelope kind of goes in to rescue her friend and ends up in the room alone with him, and Benedict kind of comes to her rescue, and it ends up kind of almost in a compromising position with Penelope. So Penelope is kind of given 2 options. She can either marry Benedict or kind of run away and live kind of a you know, go abroad and to escape the scandal, and she chooses to marry Benedict. So up until that point they aren't really, they know each other but they aren't like romantically involved, and then they do obviously get married, and then we in the second half get to see them falling for one another, and Benedict has some troubles with his father that Penelope's not aware of, and there is a lot of drama that happens towards the end of this book. I won't obviously spoil what happens, but there is kind of some intense moments towards the end of this book, and I did really enjoy this one. I liked Caroline Linden's writing. I thought it was very easy to follow. It was quite fast paced. I did fly through this one quite quickly. I would say that the romance is not necessarily my favourite romance that I've ever read in a historical romance. There is definitely chemistry between the characters, but because they obviously get married before they are in love, that kind of love develops slowly, and I feel like we could have maybe had, if we'd spent more time with them, we would have got to see them more in love. I feel like this could have been slightly longer to kind of conclude that, because the ending felt a little bit rushed to me, because they spend quite a lot of the first half of the book obviously not actually involved in any way. It wasn't until maybe like the halfway point when they did actually get married. It might have even been a little bit further past the halfway point. So overall I enjoyed this one, but definitely not my favourite historical romance. I do enjoy Caroline Linden's writing. I will say that this is, I think, book 3 in the series, and I do feel like I may have benefited from reading the previous books, because there are characters and events that are kind of alluded to in this one, which are obviously things that happened in previous books. So I would be interested to go back and reread those, but this, you can obviously read this as a standalone, but I think obviously you would benefit if you have read the previous books in the series to kind of, because obviously there are some things that are referenced, but overall a solid read, and definitely a author that I would recommend checking out. So now I'm going to pick my last book for this video, so I'm just going to pull up my randomizer and see what we get. I'm really hoping not to have another historical romance, because I've read quite a few, as I said recently. I've obviously read 2 for this video alone, and then outside of this video I have read a couple as well. So I would like to read something non-historical, but I know that I do have a lot of historicals from this haul, so we'll see what we get. So let's have a look. So let's see. So I have just put up my generator here, and we're going to see what number we get. So we've got number 6. So let's see what that is on the list. And surprise, surprise, it is another historical. This is As You Desire by Connie Brockway. So I'm just going to go and grab this one. I think this is going to be a vlog of historical romances, completely unintentionally, but I'm glad to be reading historical romances, but I would kind of like a break from them. So I probably won't read after this video. I probably won't read any for a while, but I'll go and grab this book so I can show you it, and this will be the last one that I read for this video. So it took me a little while to find this one, but here it is. It is As You Desire by Connie Brockway. This one I bought because the Historical Hellions were reading this for one of their, I think it might have been their January book, and I just never got around to it. So I'm interested to check this one out. I have read from Connie Brockway before, but I obviously haven't read this one. This one is the indie version of this book. So this book was originally published, I think, a while ago. It doesn't actually tell me in here, but I think it was published previously under a publisher, and then she re-released this as like an indie copy. So this is the indie copy, which is why it's obviously not a mass market paperback. So I am gonna just read the blurb for this one, and then I will go away and start reading this. This one's quite a short one, so I don't know if I will update you halfway through or if I'll just wait until the end. This has 288 pages, so I think it'll be quite a quick read. But it says, Desdemona Carlyle has spent most of her young life dreaming of a knight in shining armour. When a dashing figure in midnight black riding a snow-white steed comes to rescue her from the ruffians who have kidnapped her, she believes her destiny has finally arrived. She surrenders herself to the masked stranger's embrace, only to discover her rescuer is none other than Harry Braxton, the scoundrel who stole her heart when she was just a girl, adding it to his collection of exotic treasures as if it was just another trinket. Harry Braxton doesn't want to be any woman's knight-errant. He plays the role of notorious rake to hide the dangerous secret that has kept him from offering Desdemona his own heart, but his tarnished armour soon begins to crumple beneath the irresistible assault of Desdemona's sparkling wit, her dazzling beauty, her teasing and tender touch. As a legendary treasure hunter, he never dreamed he'd be forced to give up the most priceless treasure of all. When Lord Ravenscroft, Harry's aristocratic cousin, comes courting Desdemona, Harry's aristocratic cousin comes courting, Desdemona makes a startling discovery. She might yearn for a hero, but what she really needs is a man, the only man who can fulfill all of her desires. So, sounds interesting. I'm not too sure what people's general thoughts are on this one. As I say, I know they read it for the Historical Hellions book club, but because I hadn't read it, I didn't actually watch the live show, so I'm not sure what the consensus was on this one, if people enjoyed it or not. So looking forward to going into this one, and as I say, I will update my thoughts on this one once I have finished it. So I am here with my final thoughts on As You Desire by Connie Brockway. So I don't think I actually gave any halfway thoughts on this one. I think I just read straight through because this was a really quick read. As you can see, I think I said in my last clip that it was only 288 pages, so I did read through this quite quickly. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. So I didn't love this one as much as I was hoping to. I will say I enjoyed the beginning portion of the book more than the rest of the book. So in this one we follow Desdemona and Harry, and this one is actually set in Egypt, which I don't think from the synopsis it really gives that away, and you can't really tell from the cover, but this one was set in Egypt, which I thought was quite unique. I don't think I have read any other historical romance that has been set in Egypt. The majority of historical romances that I have read have either been set in the UK, so either England or Scotland, or the US. I don't think I've really read anything outside of that. So that was quite refreshing. It was made a change to read about a different location. And in this one, at the beginning of the book, Desdemona is actually kidnapped by some people in Egypt, and that's kind of where the story starts. So I was quite intrigued by the beginning of the story, but I feel like it went downhill after that. I didn't necessarily love the direction the story took. I also wasn't super wowed by the romance in this one. I feel like maybe this one would have worked better as just like a fiction story rather than having a romance in it, because the romance was quite lacking for me. I didn't love that. So yeah, it wasn't my favourite thing. So overall I ended up giving this 3 stars. There is a second book in this series. So this series is called the Braxton series, and there is a second book in this series, and that one is actually available on Kindle Unlimited with the read and listen function. Quite a few Connie Brockway books seem to be in Kindle Unlimited with the read and listen function, apart from this one. This one isn't in Kindle Unlimited, but quite a lot of her other ones are, so I'd be interested to check out more from her backlist. So to round up this vlog, I will just kind of recap the other books that I read. So in terms of least favourite to favourite, I think it's quite obvious from my ratings, but my least favourite book was Lady of Skye by Patricia Cabot, and I gave this one 2.5 stars. And then As You Desire, as I've just mentioned, I gave 3 stars. And then Love in the Time of Scandal by Caroline Linden, I gave 4 stars to, and was my favourite from the video. So I did really enjoy picking up these books. I feel like I won't be reading any historical romances for a while because I can get a little bit burnt out on them. And I have obviously just read 3 back to back. Well, technically 4 because I read one outside of this video. So I don't think I'll be reading one for a while. But I did really enjoy doing this video, revisiting my book hauls and actually making sure I am reading the books that I haul. It is very easy just to kind of haul books and then not actually end up reading them. So I think I will be continuing to do this on a monthly basis, kind of revisiting previous month's book hauls and making sure I read at least like 3 of the books from that video. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you plan to pick up any of these books. If there was a particular book on my January book haul that you would like to see me read, then please let me know, and I will make sure to maybe do that in my next video. And as always, please do subscribe if you enjoy my videos, and I will see you in my next video.